Hello and welcome back to the Human AF podcast by Steph and Steph. I am Steph Laffey from New York City.
And I am Steph Taylor from Manitoba, Canada.
So today we decided that before we hop into the actual pivotal issues that we're going to be unpacking throughout this podcast, we just want to quickly take one more little stop on our journey because the way that this podcast is going to roll out and the way that we're going to put the episodes out, it's gonna really tell a story. That's the intention here. But before
Journey.
we, yeah, it is a journey. I mean, it might not make sense to you at first how we're going, the order that we're going, but it makes sense to us. So it's our journey. You'll just have to trust us. Um, but we decided that before we like kind of dive into some of the issues that we're going to be unpacking, we wanted to quickly have a conversation about, what you do when you feel resistance to your ideas being challenged. And then we also want to unpack the difference between values, beliefs, and opinions, because I think that they get misconstrued and used interchangeably. And the truth is, they are not all the same. So, we'll be talking about all of that today and more, and we're very excited for this conversation. So thank you for listening.
Yes, it's going to be a really fun one. So, why don't we dive in and go through? Because when we talked about in the last episode too of kind of the idea for the podcast and going through all these sort of um, uh, different, when you become more human, different ideas, different societal norms, and people will often clash. And we wanted to have a space where you could come together and have differencing of ideas or opinions or beliefs and still have an open conversation.
Hmm.
So bringing this episode is, okay, how do we hold space for that differing opinion when your defenses start coming up, when you start to sort of feel that rage of, no, I'm right and you're wrong? How do we move back and allow that open space to hear a differing opinion and be okay with it? Not only okay with it, but get curious about why you're reacting, like why your
Right.
body is coming up, as well as getting curious about why they think that way and
Hmm.
having that open conversation respectfully. So in order to do that, we talked about it and went, okay, people will get defensive often because they don't know what their true values are.
Hmm.
And so they're not able to fully hold space because they are in defense mode because they feel as though they're wrong or that someone's trying to prove that they're wrong and therefore they're trying to prove, no, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right.
It really comes down to values versus beliefs versus opinions.
Absolutely. And I think that you really touched on such a good point there with people. The reason that people get so upset is that they feel like somebody is almost attacking their character because our values really are who we are at our core. It's that's how we go throughout the world. That's how we present ourselves to the world. And when we are not crystal clear on our values, and we think that people are challenging our values when really they're just challenging our opinions and beliefs, it can be really hard to like not see red and not feel like, oh my God, like this person's out to get me. I need to fight them or I need to run away. Um, and I feel like so now I'm at the point where I do know my values, but and so when somebody challenges my opinions and even some of my beliefs, I'm like, all right, like let's hear this. I tell me what you think. Tell me more. Like I'm open. I'm like ready to go, but like not in a way that's here to prove them wrong. I'm so curious. But in the past, I was like I would get so bent out of shape and I would make myself so crazy. Like I cared more about being right and proving that I was right and proving that I was the smartest person in the room and that I knew what I was talking about than I did about just learning more and asking questions and getting curious and being open to having my mind change because I think what I've learned is that just because I change my opinion on something or just because I change my belief on something doesn't change who I am as a person and doesn't make me flaky. It doesn't make me a flip-flopper because again, I'm not changing my values in a
Right.
single conversation. Like that's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Values are like core. They
yeah,
are core, and then beliefs and opinions come from those core values.
right.
And beliefs and opinions can often change.
Yeah.
There's an example that I want to dive into a little bit later to really show how
Hmm.
this works. But yeah, your beliefs and your opinions can absolutely change with the conversations, but your core values, I think they're slower to change.
Yeah.
They're bigger catalysts that have to happen in order to change your core values. But most people don't actually know how to boil it down to the core values, which allow you to see how other beliefs and opinions that may make you rage actually are aligned in their values with yours.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Right. And so I often get accused when I'm having conversations of being to this or being to that or what are you listening to or who's filling your brain with these stupid ideas? And I'm like, no one. Nobody's filling my brain except for me. I'm just going about my life and when I hear a story, it's not that I instantly jump to a conclusion and come up with an opinion, but I pretty usually my intuitive reaction to whatever that story is the one that I end up sticking with later down the line.
Mhm.
Whereas years and years ago, when I didn't know my values and I didn't know my belief system, I would flip-flop from conversation to conversation because I was being told one thing, I was being told another thing, and my mind was just going absolutely nuts, and I wasn't clear on what I believed and what I valued. And so now it's like I hear a news story. I don't listen to the news, I don't watch the news anymore, because I was tired of having opinions jammed down my throat. Um, but I'm like, nobody's filling my mind. This is just the first instinct that I had. This is like the first time I heard the story. This was my reaction, and then I dove into it a little bit deeper. And what I found when I did more of a deep dive and I actually researched objectively was the facts that I was finding from various sources just confirmed what I thought initially when I first heard this. Um, and so it's so funny how people just they make so many assumptions about you based on a single opinion or a single belief that you express without actually knowing like where did that come from?
Yes, and overlooking who you've shown to be as a person
Hmm.
for a long time.
Right.
Instead, you people are so focused on these like surface level things that they've forgotten the rest. But then it's also they don't know what their values are, or they can't verbalize what their values are versus the beliefs and opinions they're told they need to have to be right and to be worthy and valuable. And this was something that I struggled with. Like I knew what my opinions and my beliefs were, but I couldn't verbalize my values. I didn't fully understand what they were behind my beliefs and opinions. And I actually had to go through like an amazing coach, Soul Sufficient, her program, and like she does this coaching stuff. She
Hmm.
really, really helped me tap into what my what my belief system and my body, my it's like a whole connection to yourself, self-connection, and like
Mm-hmm.
really understanding who I was and how to verbalize that, and then how to integrate myself into the world and relationships with other people, and really being able to hold space for that in a way that, yes, I was doing it before, but like there was so much more awareness to it and less triggering reaction. Or if there was a triggering reaction, I knew how to step back into that and look at intention, which is a values based, versus impact, which is beliefs and opinions that get triggered of I'm right, you're wrong type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the example that I would love to use to kind of show the values, beliefs, and opinions is something so simple like health. If you ask people, they'll say like health is really important. Health, like I want to be healthy. I think health is really important. That is a core value of theirs where I
Mm-hmm.
want to be healthy.
Right.
But people's beliefs and opinions on what makes them healthy can be very different.
Oh my
There are
God.
some people that are like, yep, I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to listen to everything the doctor says. I'm going to take all the like prescriptions. I'm going to go to the pharmacy, get like the OTCs. There are other people that go, no, I'm going to use just natural remedies. I'm going to see a naturopath. There are some people that go, I want to do energy work. There are other people that go, no, it's all about your mindset. There are other people that are, no, it's about the physical activity, the foods that you eat. Like everyone has a different
Mm-hmm.
belief system or opinions on what actually makes you healthy and makes you sick. But
Right.
guess what? Their core value is I want to be healthy. Health is important to me. How
Mm-hmm.
they go about doing it is just different. So
Right.
you can have that core value of, yeah, health is really important to me. You can hold space and have that conversation and get curious as to,
Right.
well, why do you tend to go to the doctor? Or why do you tend to do mindset work? How has that helped you? Please explain it to me because I'm really curious and maybe I can resonate with your story because I see a little bit of my story reflected in there, and I can hold space to be willing to try new things or be open to, hey, yeah, that's great that it worked for you. I personally tried it and it didn't. Maybe you can offer me some insight as to why it didn't, or something I could maybe try, or hey, this didn't work for you, but it worked for me. And so I'm willing to have that conversation and help you if you would like. But your core agreement is that health is really important.
Yeah. That's wow. That's incredible. Like I had the chills because so many people, especially because health is such a hot button like issue right now, and everybody wants to tell you like, if you believe this about your health, you're this way, and like if you believe this about your health, you're this way. But it's like we all value the same thing, so if we can all just like recognize that and respect that there are literally a million and one ways to go about being healthy.
Yeah.
Like I think that that could go from being a hot button issue to just let's all agree that most of us want to be healthy.
Yeah. And
Like,
really the fear too,
mm-hmm,
fear can cause you to be unhealthy. Stress. We know that. Like stress causes a whole bunch of health issues. And when you have um this antagonistic beliefs and opinions of, and this goes for anything,
yeah,
where it's I'm right, you're wrong, that creates that bubble defensive anger, fear,
mm-hmm,
because holy crap, if they prove that I'm wrong, guess what? I'm not going to agree that I'm wrong, but I now feel like a child that's going through a temper tantrum that,
mm-hmm,
oh, I have to be right, even though that I see that maybe I'm not right. It's humiliating and
yeah,
shameful to be wrong.
yeah.
So, like,
And it's painful, and it
oh,
also it makes you start to question yourself, your own decisions, your own like everything that you stand for. But the thing is, at the end of the day, if you're passionate about a topic about health, just recognize that that's coming from the core value of wanting to be healthy. And
Yeah.
that's
And
it. And
holding
so is
space.
the other person.
Yes. And if you can go into a conversation going, okay, I'm just going to be curious. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. I know what I feel, but that doesn't mean that what works for me works for them. So if I can hold space that, yeah, you can disagree with me, and I'm going to respect that that's your right to do what you want to do in your life. I don't expect you to push it on me, like your beliefs on me. And if I don't do them, then I'm a horrible person. The same way, if you don't do my beliefs, then you're a horrible person. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So when you can enter a conversation just going, okay, ground ground rule, like we both believe that health is important, or we both believe that, you know, some faith is important or whatever, like having a faith system is important, then we can hold space for that curiosity and have that open conversation and not be trying to prove right versus wrong.
Right. And yeah, and like just I like what you said there about like I wonder if it would be a good approach to the conversation for two people to come to the table and say, before we, dive into the nitty-gritty, before we share our opinions and beliefs about how to approach this, let's just lay out our values on the table. We both value health. We both want to be healthy. It means like health is what matters to both of us. And if you can just establish that from the get-go, I feel like the conversation will be a much more peaceful, positive experience than if you start out just pouring your opinions and beliefs down each other's throat without ever establishing that you're both coming from the same place, just through different paths.
Right. When you look at the intention, the impact becomes neutral.
Right.
If you come from that, okay, we agree on this, and that is like the internal core, we agree on this, anything they say, the impact that it has on you is much less because you already know that person agrees with me that health is very important or having a faith is very important. What they believe or their opinions of what works for them in their life, the impact on me is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're then less triggered by it. And if you do get triggered, if you do feel defensive, then it's like, okay, am I defensive because of the way that they're saying it? And so it feels very attacking.
Mm-hmm.
That's on them. That's them trying to, like, their ego going, I'm right, you're wrong type of thing. But
Right.
also, if I'm letting that bother me, that's an
Why?
impact that I need to look at of like, okay, is there a situation in my past where I felt like I wasn't being heard, or I felt like I wasn't being believed, or I felt like I was having to admit that I was wrong when I was actually right, or I felt that I was right type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go back to that situation and release that if
Right.
it's really triggering to you, or otherwise just release this moment and go, no, that's okay. If they're getting really defensive, I can just say, hey, I feel like you're getting really defensive. I just want to bring it back to we both have the same end goal, which is
Yeah.
how we
Right.
get there just looks different, and we can agree to disagree and just respect the other person's beliefs.
Right.
So
Right.
you can
And
always vocalize that to then neutralize the emotions that are coming back and forth.
absolutely. And I think that's really important what you said there because I think what a lot of people forget is that just like this is sort of the process that we all go through, like when we're getting triggered by a conversation about a hot button topic, it's usually because we might have our defenses up around our value system and our belief system. But just like that's what's going on for me and for Steph and for you in your next conversation about these things, that's also going on for the person on the other side. Like that's the beauty about the human experience, is we're all kind of experiencing this. And so if the person on the other side of the conversation that you're talking to is getting defensive, you now know what it is they're experiencing in the background. They might not know it, but having this information and recognizing what's happening when somebody's getting really heated and really angry, just that little tidbit of information alone makes these difficult conversations that much easier, because it's not about you that they're getting mad. They're not getting mad at you. They might be getting triggered by what you're saying, but that's on them. And obviously, you want to be able to say things from a place of compassion and empathy and not attacking their character. But um, if you're just stating facts and opinions based on your beliefs, as long as you're being aligned within yourself, if they're getting angry and triggered, that's coming from them. And
Right.
so you can sort of recognize that and take a step back, and like Steph said, you can bring it back to that core value. And it's such a powerful thing that has helped me to navigate a lot of tough conversations that I've been having over the last couple of years with people that I don't agree with on literally anything.
Mhm.
But I still have managed to have great relationships with them, better relationship with them than I had when I used to pretend that I agreed with them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's very powerful when you're able to have a conversation based on values,
Hmm.
recognizing what the values are. But if you don't know what your actual core values are versus your beliefs or opinions, that's something very interesting to sit down and work through. It's
Oh
actually
yeah.
quite eye-opening to get
Changed my
into
life.
your, like, non-negotiable top three values.
Right.
It's
And do you think
incredible.
that those values change throughout different seasons of your life, or do you think it's more the beliefs that change in alignment with those values?
I think that the beliefs and opinions definitely change more frequently, where
Mm-hmm.
values are very core, but as you go through stages in your life, those values can change.
Right. It's a lot more gradual.
Yeah, it's definitely slower moving. And I'm gonna say more catalytic. Like you kind of need a bigger event or a bigger thing to sort of have them really solidify changing. But I think that they do change at a slower pace versus the
Right.
belief opinions. I mean, we've seen opinions can change on a dime and
Oh, my
absolutely
opinions
fine.
often change, like all
Yes.
the time, and
And
that's okay.
your beliefs,
That's
they're
like the next
slower.
layer, right?
Yeah, they're slower than opinions, but your beliefs can also be very easily swayed by other people around you because if like one of your core values is to be like a morally good person,
Mm-hmm.
well, you're yes, you want to be a morally good person, but what does that mean to you?
Right.
It's there's a value that's deeper than that, but your
Mm-hmm.
belief system could be swayed on that morality.
On what that looks like. So,
Right.
like, I remember having a situation a couple of years ago where, like, using this exact example of I want to be a morally good person, I want to be a helpful friend. I believed that to be a helpful friend was when somebody came to me with a problem, I was meant to give them advice.
Mhm.
I found out the hard way that sometimes you just need to listen. And
Yes.
sometimes a friend is just venting because they want you to hold space.
Mhm.
And so my beliefs shifted real fast throughout that week as we like went back and forth, and she was really upset with me and really hurt by me. And um really pissed off that I was just everything she was saying, I was just like, well, you should do it this way. I was trying to be a good friend. I was coming from a place of good values of wanting to help her, but she wasn't asking for my advice. She
Right.
was just asking for me to listen. And so my belief since then has since changed on what it looks like to actually carry that value out and what it looks like in the real world.
Yeah.
Um, so like I can think of a million examples of that, but it's always coming from the same value of wanting to be the best friend that I possibly could. I just had to change gears a little bit and switch the approach that I was using.
I absolutely love that example because it really shows how people are different in the way that their values are reflected. So even, I mean, most of it, we're not taught how to properly communicate. And so
Right.
we get into this, treat others the way that you want to be treated. And so therefore you sort of operate, well, not even that, but you just operate based on what feels good to you, what you would want, because that's all you know. But
Mm-hmm.
until as you become more human and you recognize that everyone is different and how they relate is different, you then get to this level
Mm-hmm.
where you realize, okay, hang on, what my belief of how that value is represented is actually different for other people. So you
Mm-hmm.
can actually start out the conversation and go, okay, what does this look like for you? A
Mm-hmm.
great example, too, is when you're in a relationship or dating, having a conversation of, well, what does cheating look like to you? There are
Mm-hmm.
people that will say, like flirting is not cheating, or
I'm
texting,
one of them.
or other people that are like, absolutely, that is definitely cheating. Other people are like, no, it's not
Yeah.
until you hit sex. So if you have a different belief system, like you may have the same value of cheating is wrong.
Right.
Belief system of how that value is represented is very different. So
Yeah.
having that conversation on, okay, what are your values and how does that actually look for you? What is represented by that? What does that mean for you?
Right.
What does
Oh my
being a good
God.
friend mean and look like to you? That's where you get to know if that actually aligns with your own values and if you can actually be in a relationship with that person in the way that they operate. So in a relationship, for example, with the cheating, if you both have cheating is wrong as a value, but if the way that that looks, your belief of how that's actually represented is very different. Someone says flirting is cheating and the other person says no, sex is cheating, everything else is fair game. Those two people need
Are
to
not
make it
gonna work unless they come to an agreement.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you really need to get into the nitty-gritty, and like with romantic relationships for sure you need to have these
Mhm.
conversations so
Not
that
on
you,
the first date, but
gosh,
maybe
no.
like
But that
before
way
you enter a marriage.
you're not wasting your time, you're not
Yeah.
blindsided, you're not, getting really triggered by stuff that if you'd had a more deeper open conversation, that would have looked very different to you versus just assuming that if somebody has that value, that their beliefs and opinions reflect your own.
Yeah, so I think that this was like such a important conversation for us to have before we actually get into the nitty-gritty and our opinions and our beliefs and all of that. We wanted to really lay the groundwork for the difference between the three. And we wanted to sort of let you know that some of the conversations that we have are gonna possibly trigger some of you. And I'm sorry for that.
Sorry,
But I
not sorry.
invite you. I'm not really that sorry. I'm sorry that that you're triggered, but this is based. Everything that we share is based on our values, our beliefs. And this is not an advice podcast. I want to say that right here, right now. This is
Yeah.
anything but. This is our opinions, our beliefs based on our values. You can take what works for you, throw away the rest, as our mutual coach, Corey Lynn, loves to say. And just use this as an opportunity to listen and ask yourself, okay, what do I believe? What are my opinions? Like, why am I getting upset here? Or
It's
what can I learn? Sorry.
it, no, I think the whole, we talked about it in the last episode that this podcast is kind of a journey to becoming human as fuck, or AF. It's an invitation for you to expand and go deeper into who you really are and how you show up in the world, what that looks like in relating to other people or what's around, and how you can really grow. So instead of it being like advice, it's an invitation, and you get to choose what you want to throw out and what you want to keep as you expand as a human being. That's all it is. Like, really, we're not here to change anybody's minds on purpose. We're just kind of, no, let's have a conversation, and like, let's create more humanity. Let's become more human. It's an invitation. And so you're welcome. Like, we invite you on this journey to
We invite
becoming
you.
more
Yeah.
human.
And we invite you, if you absolutely fucking hate what we have to say, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yes.
I love that for you. Comment. Let us know.
Yes.
Leave us a review, but do so
We will invite you on.
be respectful, please.
Yeah.
Don't make me block you. I will not delete your comment, but I will block you if you're rude. Um, but we love that for you. We love that you're so passionate and that you feel so strongly, and we want to hear from you because maybe it'll spark another like sort of follow-up episode where we react to your comments and we think about, okay, how can this shift our opinions? But we can't do that if we don't know the story behind what
Right.
you think.
Yeah.
So with all that said, this girl has got to go to spin class because that's my like thinking place. But if you absolutely love this episode, please leave us a 5-star review and a 5-star rating and a review. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Threads. We've just made an account. It's at humanaf_podcast, right?
Mhm.
I hope so. We'll put it in the show notes. And yeah, like it, rate it, share it with a friend, and keep on listening because I think in the next episode we're gonna start to dive into the actual issues.
We got one more thing we're gonna some pre-work, the basics
Okay.
to get into.
Okay. I'm
That's
jumping ahead.
set up the rest. But yeah, we're getting more into stuff next episode. It's gonna be good.
Absolutely. It's gonna be good and it's all gonna build on itself. So thank you so much for listening. I am Steph Laffey.
And I am Steph Taylor, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.